In this video, we're going to take a look at the crystals technique, and to get started I'll choose New and start a new design, and I'll turn off the cut, embroidery, stencil, and paint techniques and just leave the technique for crystals turned on and say Create New. Now that way, whenever I create, the software knows that I'm going to work in the crystals technique. And first thing you might notice when you choose crystal technique on is that there's a tool on the left called Create Crystal Shape, and if I turn that on, it kind of attaches a little crystal to the end of my cursor, and if I scroll in, really close, you can see what it looks like. Now, I have the ability in my tool options to control this crystal. So first of all, I can choose the palette from several different palettes of crystals. So this is the Swarovski round palette. And then of course the color. So there's a large list of different colors of crystals that you can choose from. And then the last thing you select is the size. And so here you've got everything from an SS5 up to an SS48 size crystal. And I have a lot of these SS10 crystals, so I'll choose that size. Now, with the crystal attached to my cursor, I can simply click wherever I want a crystal to go. And what you see here is it's just showing me, my fabric, my material in the background, and I can, create as many of these little crystals as I want to. And if I right click, it will stop making crystals and kind of let go of that tool. Now, it might look a little more attractive if I select a lighter colored fabric for this design. So I'll choose sort of a light colored background. And then of course, so we can create crystals kind of at random with our Create Crystal tool. Just put them, if you had an embroidery design, you could just add a few little crystal touches and make a little template for that if you needed to. But the real advantage here is in filling in shapes. And so what I'll do is I'm just going to create a few shapes. I'll create a nice ellipse shape, and then maybe create a star shape. And what you'll find, with crystals is that size really does matter. In other words, if I have a nice big star, then there's room to put lots of crystals in it. If it's just a little tiny star shape, well, there's not a lot of room for crystals, and therefore, not as many decorative, fill patterns that will be, successful for us. Now, what I'm talking about is this star and this fill, or this oval, are both filled in with white crystals and outlined with black crystals. And then I guess I have at random some little red crystals. So that's what we've created so far. And before I even connect to the cutter and talk about, cutting out the templates for the crystals, if I just select, let's say, this oval shape, we'll see that it has a fill, it's set as crystal fill, and an outline set as a crystal outline. And what we can do now, I'm going to go back to, we'll look at the outline first. That's fine. So for the crystal outline, the palette that's been selected is Swarovski round. And the size has been set as SS10, and the color is a dark indigo. And if I want, I can change the color to any ones that I want. So whatever, I'll choose a green color. So what I have now is a white fill with green outlines. And I have ability to set some adjustments. So things like offset, item rotation, and spacing. Well, it's a circle, so item rotation is probably not going to be relevant. Maybe if it was a tear-shaped crystal or something like that. But offset, well, you can see what that'll do. So right now, the crystals are set right down the center of the outline, but if I put a 1 millimeter offset on this, it pushes them sort of 1 millimeter away from that center, and so now they're kind of just sitting right on the edge of that outline, and I could make it, well, let's see, 2 millimeters. And it would push it out even further. And as it does, the white crystals are able to therefore fill in a little further along that shape. So that's what offset's all about. Now, spacing. So right now we're talking about the outline, right? We're on the outline properties. The spacing set at 1 millimeter. If I adjust that, let's just zoom in a little closer. If I adjust that to, let's say, be 2 millimeters, so I'll just select 1 and type 2 and hit enter, what you see is we have more space between the crystals on the crystal outline. So crystal outline's fairly straightforward in terms of the, ability to adjust it. But if I select the oval again and change the object properties for the crystal fill, you'll see there's a few more adjustments, because now, again, I still have the palette and the size and the color of crystals. So maybe I'll choose something a little bit easier to see. But now you have the fill style, and you can see right now it's set on something called shape fit. But if I pop that list open, you'll see there's rectangle, circular, contour, single line, shape fit, and line fit. So let's just look at them all. So right now it's on shape fit. Let's just change it to rectangle. So it fills in the shape, in this case it happens to be an oval, in rows and columns. And now you have for each one of these styles of fill the ability to control several different things, and these will change depending on the style of fill. So we'll kind of come back to this, but the idea is I'll just show them first. So you have the rectangle, you have a circular fill, kind of fills it in a circular pattern. We've got the contour fill. Now it kind of contours around your shape. We've got the single line fill, just fills a single line across your shape. And we've got the shape fit, which we saw already, and then we have the line fit. And so again, similar to rectangle, fills it in rows of lines. Now, I'll go back to rectangle and see now we can choose, okay, there's offset, so I can offset how far inset those fuchsia crystals are away from my sort of shape. I can set the item rotation. Again, it's a circle, so I'm not sure that that's very important right now, but the horizontal and vertical spacing are very important. So they're set at 1 millimeter each. If I wanted to make them further apart, I'll just change that to be 2 millimeter horizontal spacing so you can see different spacing this way versus that way. I'll change the vertical spacing to match. And so I have therefore less crystals and more space in between them. And that's what spacing is about. Now, the start angle, it's set at 0. If I change it to be, 25, can you see what it's done? It took this degree here that would have been like a 90 degree at the top, it just kind of rotated it to make it be 25 degrees off of that. And then you still have one more adjustment, your slant angle, and it's set at 90. And if I change that to, let's say, 45, it takes this angle in here and makes it sort of more, closer. And so what it does is it creates a pattern. So within rectangle, you have the ability to adjust the way that sort of rows and columns fit together with these numbers. But as always, using the select tool and then changing to the edit shape nodes tool gives us different abilities to control the shape. And with crystals, what it gives is little control points. And so notice, remember, this is for rectangle fill. I have 3 control points, and with them, I can control the horizontal, vertical, and slant and start angle. In other words, here, let me change the start angle. And here, let me change the slant. And let me change the vertical spacing and the horizontal spacing. So I can decide how close they are and how, linear they are, or how much of an offset I want to make my rows. And so you can kind of see how with using edit shape nodes, it's a little bit more interactive than being sort of mathematical about it. Either way, you're making the same adjustments. So that's, the oval shape. Now let's just take this big star here. And again, I'll just maybe give it some other kind of color for the fill. And look at the different shape fits and whatnot for a star shape. So now the rectangle fill looks like this. Circular fill looks like that. Contour fill looks like that. And there's shape fit and single line, and then there's line fit. So as you can see, not all of them are successful for this star shape, yet some are more successful than others. So contour looked kind of nice in the star, and versus maybe the oval might look good in a circular or even a rectangular. It kind of depends on the spaces that get created. So really, you learn to play with these different styles. So notice when I change it, and now we've set this on contour, again, if I come back to edit shape nodes, now I have, again, there's 3 nodes, but now they're adjusting, first of all, horizontal spacing, so we'll just make this a little bit longer, and vertical spacing. Okay, there's no start angle or offset there like there was with the rectangle fill. I can simply set the spacing for the lines and the rows. And so that's when you use contour fill, and so on and so on. So if I change it to, let's say, circular fill, and then go to the same edit nodes, now I have, again, 3 green control points. And this time I can control the distance between them, and then the sort of degrees of the steps like this. So you can see here it shows you the steps and the start angle and the horizontal spacing, and those are the things that you can control, and the rotation for a circular fill. So lots of different ways that you can adjust and control your crystal patterns using the different styles of fill and then interacting with all of the spacings and whatnot. Now, once you've got it all to a point where you think you're happy with it, then you would go to your cutting machine. And so you would say File, and you would say Export to Cutters. And you would choose your style of cutting machine. I'll choose my artistic edge and say Connect. Okay, so now it's connected to the cutter, and it's given me several options, and that's because I've used several colors in the design. So you can see I've got the ruby, the little cluster that I started with, and then I've got the fuchsia on the inside of that ellipse and the green on the outside of it, and then I've got red on the inside of the star and dark indigo on the outside. And I could cut one of these just by selecting the one. I have cut a frame around it, or I could select all and have them all cut at the same time. Of course, it would stop in between. And so really for me, like for crystals, I often just cut each color of the crystal template individually so that I can sort of use it into, without the other crystals and colors at the same time. Anyway, that's the point is you get to control all of that with the export to cutter window. Now, if you want to do a test, when you choose that you're using crystal template, it will create a small test with 9 little holes to test your sort of settings versus the fabric or the materials that you're going to be cutting out of. Usually it's either the smooth template material or the flock template material. And so you can just test which one, and it tells you which blade to put in and so on. So you can run a test before you create your crystals, or do you cut your crystal templates. And then, of course, when you're ready, you would push cut. Now, before I kind of move on from crystals, because there's more, we can create crystals using graphics. And there's also a very important technique that I need to show you called remove overlapped crystals. And so what I'm going to do is just reset myself and start a second video and explain sort of the overlap crystals concept.